Member for Maylands.
I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to their elders. I also congratulate you formally, Mr. Speaker, on your appointment to the position of Speaker of this House. Mr. Speaker and fellow members, to stand before you today as the member for Maylands is an immense honour. Of all the speeches I will make in this place, I don't think I'll ever forget how proud, privileged and nervous I feel at this moment, giving this my inaugural speech. The first thing I must do is thank the people of Maylands electorate for placing their trust in the Australian Labor Party and in me to represent their interests in state parliament. It's a responsibility which I take very seriously and a job I promise to undertake with commitment, enthusiasm and integrity. I wish to thank the many volunteers who worked so hard to ensure the success of my campaign, my friends, family and supporters who attended countless campaign meetings, hand-delivered letters and brochures and then, still smiling, turned up on election day to staff polling booths across the electorate. In particular, I would like to thank my campaign manager, Linda Savage, and others who helped: Fiona Sassenfeld, Jessica Shaw, Tessa Hopkins, Jenny Taylor, and the many community workers, a number of whom are members of the Liquor, Hospitality and Miscellaneous Workers Union, who helped me through my campaign. Thanks to my brother James, his wife Stacey and little Thomas for the youngest campaigner on my team, who was not quite one at that time. To my sister Marianne and Rob, Nick and Kanika, thank you for your support. My parents, who are both gone now, but I dearly hope that they would be proud and pleased to see me in this new role as well. And a very, very, very special thank you to my partner of 20 years who has been incredibly supportive and has managed to keep smiling for the duration of all of this so far. I must also take this opportunity to thank the previous member for Maylands, the Honourable Dr. Judy Edwards. Judy served in this Parliament for 18 years, including 5 years as the Minister for the Environment. And I imagine that those of you who have had the privilege of knowing and working alongside Judy regard her, as I do, with great respect and warmth. My journey representing Maylands is just beginning, but I look to Judy as a model of leadership, integrity, excellence and tenacity that I really wish to emulate. I thank Judy for leaving the people of Maylands with high expectations of their member, and I'm certainly going to work hard to ensure that I can fulfil their expectations. So, Maylands. First named in 1896, Maylands is one of Australia's oldest electorates. The new boundaries include the suburbs of Maylands, Bayswater, Bedford, Embleton, a good proportion of Inglewood and a small slither of Morley. The electorate is a combination of all that is great in lifestyle and in community in Western Australia. We have the amazing Derbil Yerrigan, our Swan River, winding through the electorate, which is a natural resource and a source of life, history, leisure and tradition. And the people in my electorate regard the Derbil Yerrigan with great pride and are committed to protecting it for generations to come. Maylands represents all of the complexities and potential of a diverse inner city electorate. Traditionally, the electorate has been characterised by blue-collar or low-income workers, many of them from non-English speaking backgrounds as well. Today, however, the electorate is home to more white-collar workers and more professionals, although income levels remain surprisingly modest. The median household income in my electorate is just $928 a week. Not a lot when you place that in the context of today's cost of living pressures. We still have a high proportion of residents who were born overseas, almost 6,000 of them speaking a language other than English at home. In terms of our built and cultural environment, Maylands electorate includes everything from traditional architecture and historic sites like Tranby House and the brickworks on the peninsula, to vibrant cafe and restaurant strips like on Beaufort Street in Inglewood and 8th Avenue in Maylands. We also have modern commercial developments like Centro Galleria and are home to many strong and established community, cultural and ethnic groups. Throughout the electorate, young families are moving in, renovating older properties, raising young children and settling into their neighbourhoods and the wider community. Community is something I personally feel very passionate about, and it's a subject I'm going to return to time and again in this place. Community, that sense of involvement and closeness that comes from knowing and trusting people in your neighbourhood. It's, in my view, the heart of civil society. It makes and sustains us as human beings, creating opportunity, helping individuals to realise their potential, and during times of hardship provides a safety net for those less fortunate. It was not until I started campaigning in Maylands electorate that I realised how much things have changed in recent years. People don't think of us, their local members, as being part of their communities. Unless, of course, they've had direct dealings with us on any issues, then it can be a different story. Worse than people not regarding us as part of their communities is the fact that if they do think of us, it's generally in the negative or about how little they trust us. When I spoke to people on their doorsteps, in schools, community organisations, sporting groups, retirement villages, shopping centres, the message was the same. People are disillusioned with politicians. And it doesn't matter which party you represent. I'm sure that in holding this view, the people that I spoke to are no different from people in your electorates as well. When I realised the disillusionment held by the community, it became very clear that I had two goals to pursue in my new role. My personal values. The first is to ensure that I set clear and public standards for my work. My personal values give me the framework and standards, and these are honesty, integrity, and loyalty. Through this public commitment and my subsequent work for the community, I hope that my constituents will find the confidence they need to trust me as their member. My second goal, which I will go on to discuss a bit later, is to know what the key issues and messages are that the people of Maylands want me to take forward as their elected representative. So in relation to that first goal, the question I can ask is, how can we endeavour to restore in people a confidence and a trust in their elected members of Parliament and indeed in our democratic processes? I believe that for this to happen, we as members of Parliament must be seen to contribute directly into our communities and to make sure that their interests are always our priorities. We must be involved, engaged, and hold high standards for our own personal behaviour. A fundamental objective of any modern effective government must be to find new ways to engage people so that they feel motivated to become more involved in their community and more a part of the democratic process. The constituents of Maylands have made it clear to me that my work must include increasing both government and opposition's focus on building trust, as well as encouraging more active citizenship. People want to live in a society that puts equal value on social, environmental, and economic progress. A community that values the work of voluntary organisations and provides opportunities for people to act together, and where civil values and skills are developed, where there is space for argument and deliberation, in which people can express different points of view and negotiate a sense of common interest. I will be aiming to provide that space for Maylands residents, so that whether they're in their families, their schools or their workplaces, they can talk and think and deliberate on what good society or good community means for them, and how social, economic and political progress might be defined. The community is sick and tired of being consulted. By consulted, I mean having strangers turn up in their neighbourhoods, ask them questions, write down their answers, all the time knowing that nothing is going to change, let alone improve. You only have to ask Aboriginal people in our communities about how consultation has impacted upon them to understand what I mean. To quote the Honourable Fred Chaney, radical change is needed to give communities real decision-making power. That doesn't mean, as so often has happened in the past, flying into communities to tell them what's going to happen to them. I believe that to build trust and faith with the community, our first step should be to work with individuals and communities, not by consulting them and then doing things for them, but by doing things with them. People must feel empowered to participate in building their own futures. My second goal, the key issues and messages that my constituents want me to take forward as their Member of Parliament. Well, the first significant issue they've raised with me is their concern for the environment. And to quote economics Nobel laureate Amartya Sen, development cannot be, I should just underline economics Nobel laureate, development cannot be divorced from ecological and environmental concerns. Indeed, important components of human freedoms and crucial ingredients of our quality of life are thoroughly dependent on the integrity of the environment. The environment is already a key platform for the Australian Labor Party. The federal government and WA Labor have put forward significant policies and programs on climate change and to protect our own local environment. Indeed, our WA Labor government was the first government in Australia to develop a state sustainability strategy to guide work on this important agenda. But in Maylands, the Swan River and its foreshore are precious to our community, especially some of the more natural and untouched aspects of the river. In particular, I'm going to be focusing on protecting the unique bird life, maintaining and preserving the valuable wetlands, preventing pollution in the river and its networks, and balancing the demand for housing and the river's protection. I believe that the ALP policies are premised on achieving the right balance between environmental protection and meeting social and economic demands. Related to their concerns for the environment, many people in my electorate have spoken to me about their concerns around transport, particularly public transport. Our Maylands electorate is home to many Perth-based workers, but we're also a major thoroughfare for people living further afield in the eastern and northern eastern suburbs who must traverse our electorate to get to their jobs in the city. The Midland to Perth Railway winds through the heart of Maylands electorate, and it carries thousands of these workers every day. Maylands residents recognise the need to promote good public transport. They're environmentally conscious enough to want to do their bit in terms of lowering carbon emissions, and they're committed to minimising their impact or footprint on the environment. The transport issues that they've raised with me include things like the inadequacy of the existing train service to meet the demand that's increasing from commuters, the need to improve safety of train travel, particularly for frail or aged and those travelling outside the busy times of day. The need to increase the number of car parking bays for park and ride patrons and local residents. The need to expand and improve the local bike path, as an increasing number of people are cycling as a key means of transport, and I think we should encourage this. And investigating the possibility of introducing bus services to transport people across the electorate to the railway line. The need to improve our public transport system is a subject you're sure to hear more from me about over the next 4 years. Mayland's electorate has great diversity in culture and heritage and also in economic circumstance, something which brings its own unique set of challenges. The people I have met over the last few months at shopping centres, train stations, parks, in their homes, have reinforced the need for me to be responsive to this diversity. I spoke to a homeless man at Mayland Shopping Centre before the election and I asked him where he finds help, whether it's medical treatment or bed for a night or a meal. And he told me that most nights he sleeps in vacant doorways or under benches because there are simply no beds available for people like me. This man's experience is repeated far too often in our community. His comments reaffirmed to me that poverty is not only alive and well, but growing. To borrow some words from the International Labour Organisation, poverty anywhere constitutes a danger to prosperity everywhere. Poverty is complex, not the least of which is because people who find themselves in poverty often suffer from more than one problem. For instance, mental health problems may be combined with drug addiction, unemployment, with alcohol dependency, domestic violence, homelessness. It's a complex mix. The solutions we need are more complicated now than ever before, and it's my belief that the first step has to be focusing on the way poverty interacts with other forms of disadvantage to produce deep and persistent social exclusion, sometimes over generations. It's also my firm belief that governments working in isolation are incapable of solving these complex problems. Governments need to work with business and, more importantly, with the community sector to find solutions and mobilise resources. And this is where the community organisations offer great support, particularly those that assist vulnerable people in our neighbourhoods. Often locally based, these organisations are themselves doing it tough, unable to keep up with the number of people who need support. Many of them are struggling to recruit and retain staff to deliver services. In many communities, this means safety nets are no longer in place or are collapsing, leaving people in crisis nowhere to go to get help. One of my key goals as the member for Maylands will therefore be to work with community organisations in my electorate to ensure their viability. And I think I need to ask, please, Mr. Speaker, for a short extension.
Extension granted. 3
pages of it. As many of you here today would appreciate, people can find themselves suffering from disadvantage, regardless of health, wealth, family or position. Issues like domestic violence, mental health, substance abuse, child abuse are not confined to one level of our society. They arise in the wealthiest of homes and in the poorest of families. I will raise these issues with our state government, always with a focus on looking for solutions. In representing the people of Maylands in this Parliament, I will be guided by the principles of social inclusion and economic justice. The recent boom times have been of great benefit to those fortunate enough to profit directly from growth in the mining sector and its allied industries. There has been another side, a darker side. We have more people experiencing unprecedented levels of poverty in Western Australia. From 2006 to 2008, household costs increased by a staggering $132 a week, an increase of 23% on basic living expenses alone. During that same period, the average weekly wages in WA increased by $61 or 10.7%. Increases like these have put pressure on individuals, families and also some small businesses not directly associated with the benefits of the boom. Is it any wonder then that almost 10,000 Western Australians were turned away by community service organisations in 06-07? The organisations reported that while 81% of those people seeking help were eligible, meaning that their need was real, the organisations simply did not have the resources to help. Add to this the fact that rental prices have gone through the roof in our state over the last few years, and the picture is very dark. Consider this, the median rent in June 05 was $189 a week. In June this year, 3 years later, that median rent is $330 a week, an increase of almost 60%. I wonder how many of us here today have ever experienced these pressures ourselves. I believe that creating opportunity for all lies at the heart of social and economic justice. Indeed, my work in Australia and overseas, developing policies to support the growth of small and medium-sized businesses, and then setting up programs that make these policies real for people, taught me the value of creating opportunities for all, especially for people marginalised from the mainstream of their communities. My work has taught me that to improve their lives, people need the opportunities provided by education, training, jobs or self-employment. But in order to take advantage of these opportunities, the first thing that people need is hope. People need hope in order to see the way forward, to get out of poverty, or to become resilient and strong enough to battle the demons they're facing. Hope is the strength that enables people to help themselves. During the last 6 years, as the Executive Director of WACOS, the peak body representing community sector agencies in WA, I've advocated on behalf of vulnerable Western Australians and the agencies who work for them. They work in our neighbourhoods, supporting people in crisis, bringing hope and opportunities to families who were doing it tough. While I have come to politics from a career that has focused heavily on economic and social development, personal experience has been equally as valuable in shaping my values and aspirations. I think hope is realistic, and I think it's a great driver. It's the wave of energy that mobilises people to act and build a better future. You only have to look at the millions of Americans who turned out to vote last week to elect their first ever African American president to appreciate what hope's about. I believe in hope because of the positives I see every day. I have a friend who's a great example of what I mean. Statistically, my friend Jim should be dead. He's a 54-year-old Noongar man. His paid work is in policy development. But outside of this, nearly every day he deals with life and death matters involving his family and friends. He has told me that in the last year he could have been at a family or a friend's funeral every week of the year. He takes late-night calls to talk friends out of suicide and makes trips to police stations to help young family members who've fallen foul of the law. His volunteer work with his community is in itself a second full-time job, and in his spare time he successfully raised 3 wonderful boys. He is tireless and selfless in his commitment to his family and his community. My friend Jim gives me hope. My role in this place will be to influence our state's policies and programs so that they deliver both hope and opportunity to the people of Maylands, but also to all Western Australians. We are living and working in strange and uncertain times. WA's economic boom cycle is faltering as the fragility of the global market economy is exposed. Words that I used to understand and relate to, words like social and human, are now coupled with capital. Politicians now talk about social capital and human capital. The world is struggling to shoulder the burden of America's financial collapse and to manage debt so great that the numbers are almost meaningless. What's a 1 with 12 zeros behind it? Much of this seems to me to be unethical, immoral, and just plain wrong. I think we must now ask ourselves whether we wish to continue along this path, or is it time to reassess and create a future based on principles of economic, social, and environmental inclusion. I'm looking forward to working with Eric Ripper's team to provide a strong and credible alternative government in Western Australia. I believe my contribution to this work will be to keep our focus on community, that sense of trust, support and connectedness that comes from strong relationships between peoples and groups, the bedrock of civil society. It makes and sustains us as human beings, creating opportunity, helping individuals to realise their potential, and during times of hardship, providing a safety net for those less fortunate.